Hello there and welcome back to Too Many Plugins. This is part 6 of the Ableton Operator series, and we are down to the final component of the operator, the matrix. So if you are just finding this and you are not familiar with all the other pieces, I strongly recommend go back and watch the other videos first, because there will be references and homework that's already been assigned. You've missed it. So part 1, we talked about oscillators. Part 2, the oscillator window and envelope window here. Part 3, LFO. Part 4, filter. Part 5, pitch envelope and applicable windows for all of those. We're down to the matrix here and the FM sequence, how your oscillators are stacked, what order. All right, it's gonna get crazy. Are you ready for this? I'm ready. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about these 3 special knobs here. We got time, tone, and volume. So time is a global control for all of the envelopes. What does that even mean, man? What does that mean? Oh, man, game over, man. R.I.P. Bill Paxton. All right. So, easy illustration here. I have got loop turned on. You can hear my loops going. So it's almost like a gate. It's that time is almost controlling a gate for all of my different like I have the beat function going on, so on 3 of them at once. So you can see, I can see very quickly how that would affect everything. Tone, it's a global tone knob. That's all it is. Just affects the tone of everything at once. Simple enough. Volume, I think we all know what that does. This one does not go to 11. It only goes to 6. So it should go to 11. Now let's get into this. So as we've touched on several times before, this row of little squares that I had no idea what it meant for a little bit is what sequence are these oscillators stacked in. So here they are. So here it's sequential. This is your master oscillator. The one on the bottom is your master oscillator. Everything goes through that. So if you turn the volume all the way down, you can't hear anything, right? And I think once you understand that, it makes the rest of these little weird hieroglyphs make more sense. So here, still the one that's controlling everything, right? And the only difference is at the top, they're not in sequence anymore, so I could turn down one of them and still get something out of the other. Now, next one in line, we've got C and B on one side, and so B, if I wanted to control, I can control both of them at the same time. So you can hear it kind of coming in and out. And then next one, different sequence, D at the top going through both C and B, and then A at the bottom. So A is controlling everything. Hopefully by now it's starting to make sense how this actually works. Then we got D, C going into B and A separately. So like here, I'm cutting out B, D and C are still going through A, but when I turn B up, we're getting like a double dose of D and C. So that's some of them you get. That's why the character can be so different. Then we got D, C, and B all in a sequence, and then A is separate. Here, we'll turn off the beat. Then we got similar. They're running sequentially, but D, C, and B now have You can control them individually. Depending on how you had these modulated, you could actually end up with almost the exact same sound from this one to this one. But that depends on your modulation. Next, we got a little square where you got two separate lines going. What is that? You got D and C, and then you got B and A. So you can control half of it with just A, and then you control the other half of it with just C. Then D splitting off into each individual one, then D going just through C, and then all running separately. So you get whatever each wave is going to come typically individually. It's not oscillating any of the other waves at that point. And usually with these, I don't think about the theory behind it. I typically just play. I just go through and play and see, what does it do when I do this? What does it do when I do this? And I'll just select all of them, and then I might mess with a few levels and see what kind of different outcomes I'll get. But yeah, frequently I'm just play with it and see what sounds best. And sometimes it's almost no difference, and then sometimes it's a huge difference. And sometimes it overdrives like that. All right, so let's talk about this matrix. What does this thing mean? So every little piece of it's all MIDI controls here. These are all your different MIDI settings that to affect other stuff. So if I want the velocity of every note to go to the volume of oscillator D, I can. So if I hit hard, volume D is gone. If I hit soft, it's there. It's not super noticeable in this context. So let's switch back to this. And let's go the other way. And so sometimes these just don't have a huge impact. Actually, volume of B might be, in this sequence, might be more effective because it's further down the chain. And so the volume of B is going to affect the volume of everything coming in. And you got crossfades, you got feedback, you got fixed frequency. Let's see. So let's see. C, we make it fixed. And now you can hear it. So I'm hitting it at different intensity levels, and it's changing the note. Your drives, your filters, your shaper, your LFO, you name it. You got all these different options. And you have all those for each one of these. If you have a keyboard that supports aftertouch, that's a fun one to play with. Pitch bend, and then the mod wheel of your keyboard to affect whatever you got. Where your key on the keyboard, where you're at, high end, low end of the keyboard, to affect different stuff. So you got, let's do LFO because it's an obvious one. You know how I feel about this sound if you've watched the other videos, but we're gonna go for it anyway. All right, so key, got it to affect the LFO. We're gonna do 100% down. So this. So that's the rate it's affecting. Let's do the amount. And then let's drop to the bottom end of the keyboard. So it's like less amount. And then you can add another connection. You can stack it on top of here however you want, with all those same settings. And you got key time to affect key. So a couple of dedicated things. Then you got a dedicated pan right there. Oh, excuse me. Time. That's an independent setting. That's not key and then also time, which I'm gonna guess goes back to our little friend over here. Actually, let's just test that real quick. Let's go back to this beat and then beat. Yeah, you can hear the time affecting and this time how they're all kind of playing against each other. And then your pans. So that's fun. And then just a general pitch. Another place where you can affect the pitch. You need to adjust the pitch of your thing. And then again, you want mod wheel to affect two things. Then you can have it affect two different things at once. Real quick across the bottom, and we'll wrap it up. Number of voices, pretty important one. They hit it well. Ableton, somebody at Ableton ever watches this. It took me a while to find that voices thing. I was pretty annoyed when I finally found it. So I wish it was somewhere more obvious. I don't think they're going to move it for me though. But that's where it is. So if you've got you want to be able to, all 20 of your fingers, you're taking your shoes off, playing with your toes and fingers at the same time, or more likely you're using sustain. So you bump up those voices. Otherwise it's going to cut out your patch as your sustain starts overlapping. You get over 6 is the default. Retrigger the key or not. Depending on the patch you're using, this retrigger could matter. If you're doing something ambient or things with long releases, the retrigger button is your friend. If you're starting to have CPU issues, take a look at that retrigger button, and that may affect some things. The interpolation button is going to affect how some of your oscillators sound, specifically the noise. And it can also affect CPU power. So another one to just kind of play with and make sure that stuff ain't messed up. Anti-alias can affect the quality of the sound, especially high frequency stuff, and can also affect CPU power. So another one that you may not notice it doing anything, or it could make a big difference depending on what you're working on. I don't know if I noticed any difference. It could, there might be a little difference there. I mean, or it could just be in my head. I'm not sure. Pan, master pan. So that's what that is. It's your pan, your master pan volume, in case you didn't, your one pan over here wasn't enough. Being able to do it with that. Then pan to key. So like if you had a piano type patch and you wanted the low end to be on the left side, like it would be like you're sitting at the keyboard, and the high end to be on the right side, then that's where this comes in handy. So we'll bump it all the way to the top, and hopefully that's in your right ear if you're listening in stereo, and then the other side of the coin. Excuse me, the other one was in the left ear, and then this one is in the right. High end is in the right. So that's what that does. And then pan random, this is a fun one. It just randomly pans stuff. I mean, I think they were just like, you know what, we have one more space. What will we do with this last space? We gotta put something there. What was Jan's idea? Oh, Jan, yeah, good idea, man. Random pan, yeah. So yeah, they dropped that in there, just random pan. And it just jumping all over the stereo spectrum. it's just a fun one to goof around with. And that's it. We did it, guys. We did it, guys and gals. We made it all the way through every different part. So if you created patches back in part 1, I hope you have gone through and messed with them as we've gone through each part, because by now, even if you only did 5 patches, then you should have like 30 patches, all of them like unique, and by this time they should be getting pretty weird, so you should have some cool stuff. If this has been helpful to you, like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. Greatly appreciate that. Took a lot of time to make this, and I hope I've explained everything to everyone's satisfaction. If I didn't, do let me know, because I'm more than happy to make a supplemental video that goes over just one function. Those don't take nearly as long as touching on every single function. And some of these are confusing. Some of these functions are very confusing. Even when you use it and you're like, I think it's doing a thing, sometimes you still like, I think it did a thing. So thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed